be live. Good evening, everyone. And yes, I'm going live slightly early. I just didn't see the point in waiting around. I'm ready to go now, so I thought I'd get started now. How are we all doing? Yeah, I'm doing okay, Berenson. I had a dentist appointment today, so my teeth feel all a bit funny still. Yeah, I'm doing okay. How about you? How are you doing? Sorry, I was just checking where we were. You're watching Isle stuff. Ah, well. It's good to have one in the background. So, before we get started with today, I just wanted to show off a few things I've been building in modular building while I've been away. I've been wanting to create some modular solar panel pieces to, so people can create their own solar panel farms to go with my solar panel power plant. So these are just sort of basic decorative modules that you can sort of stick together. Sorry. Including 4 basic panels, a sort of little control station, some broken, dirty panels that are being repaired, and some, overgrown, mossy, abandoned panels that need work. Just to go along with my solar panel power plants, So, no worries, Brian. Hello, how are you doing? What I have also been working on is a DIN monorail. Now, this is still very much a work in progress right now. About the only bits of this I am happy with is the up and down routes, which are going to have vegetation covering the roofs. And then we're going to stick with the wood and the orange glass. I don't know what I'm going to do up here yet. I'm still trying to figure that one out. This is going to be a sort of open air bar / little restaurant sort of affair, which is going to have, pillars under it. And I'm wanting to create some sort of glass covered area for the entrance. And yeah, and then the top will be whatever I decide to do. But that is very much a work in progress right now. Doing these up and down routes are a pain in the arse. Because rather annoyingly, if I just grab one of these and put it in custom design, thank you. So, you see these angles here that these would probably be escalators or something. These are not at any of the snap angles we have access to. They're not 15 degrees, they're not 22.5, they're not 30, and they're clearly not 45. So you have to manually get the angle of these in order to get a piece that you can then duplicate to work your way up and down it. Which is very annoying. So yeah, if you're designing your own monorail, have fun lining up any covering or coatings to that. Anyway, today's job is to make some enrichment items for sauropods. As you can see, we made some enrichment items for, our Struthiomimus and our little carnivores. Sauropods, however, I think are quite a complicated thing to try to build enrichment items for because they are so big. The only one we've got so far is... where is it? Going back quite a way. Is our... where shall we build? Let's build over here actually, because the sauropod fencing will be handy to have. So that was our first attempt to create a feeding, like a feeder for them. I'm going to plump down a brachy and an apato, so we have some height referencing going on. So you can see, you know, the Brachiosaurus, you can get to the top one, and the Apato can get to the one at the bottom. I think it's okay as a feeder design. Like I still think I might rebuild this one, because I'm not massively happy with it. There's some bits of it I don't like, so... yeah, I need to figure that one out. But what I want to do today is kind of think about some other types of enrichment item specifically for sauropods. Now, there's one I want to get started with while you guys are having a think. Because I think sauropod need gastroliths. So I'm going to try to create some sort of gastrolith providing feeder for them, for want of a better term. Now, I'm thinking of trying to build something that's a bit like the mud pool. Maybe not necessary, but well, actually, maybe that size would actually work. Actually, yeah, maybe something like a modification of the mud pool. Let's have a look here. That being said, it needs to be kind of high-ish. It can't be too low to the ground. I mean, we'll have to create... I think the tall ones need like an elevated gastrolith feeder. But I think for our big ones, I don't want to make it too difficult for them to get down there. So maybe we'll create something... Needs to be quite substantial because we're dealing with quite substantial animals. We don't want to create anything that's going to be too easy for them to destroy. Just having a look. I know it sounds weird. But I kind of like the idea of using these. And what we can do is we can have like gastroliths in the open bit and some special vegetation types in the planter bit. And it can be like a combined gastrolith slash feeder station. I'm going to leave that there. I want to cook on that. Let's start with just like a basic gastrolith feeder. And what I think I want to do is make it... I want to make it reasonably big. These are big animals. So I'm thinking... Yeah. I'm thinking we're not even going to dip it into the ground too much. What I'm thinking is we will create an actual... let's not use a pentagram or hexagon or whatever. Let's go with rounded corners. How big would that be? So if that's like there, so that would be another straight bit there across, and that's fairly big. Yeah, we'll go with that. Let's combine these together. That's fine. Duplicate one of those. He's over here. I'm not a massive fan of the concrete, but I think in this case, when you're dealing with animals, when you're dealing with animals like sauropods, I think it's necessary. A little bit more. I think that's reasonably in line-ish. No, it wasn't. I do wish we could move this stuff with the arrow keys, or W, A, S, and D, just to make it a little easier to make it perfect. Because relying on your mouse DPM makes it somewhat aggravating. Why is that one not fitting in properly? Because it was in the wrong place, that's why. I know it's anal of me, but I really don't like seeing those horrible black lines. I like trying to make it look as good as I can. To be moved over ever so slightly. Yeah, that'll do. Okay, so that gives us like a rough outline. Now we need something to work as a good gastrolith medium. So, what do we have access to? Let's put all the ones down that we have access to, and then we can like look at them all and decide which we think is best. So, obviously we've got like our basic random stone. But then we also have our Zen pieces, which are any of these are non-gridded? No, are these all gridded? Yeah, looks like the Zen pieces are all gridded, which I find a little bit annoying. There aren't any... I thought there were some non-gridded ones. Oh, these are the non-gridded ones. Yes, the same stuff. I don't think we have any other types of stone in there. Let's have a look at roofs, just to see. Glass, metal, thatched. No, okay, nothing in there. I'm just going to go through everything and just have a look. Gravel is basically stone. I don't know why they've changed the name. We got like sand, but I don't think sand is gastrolith texture. I think all of that's, yeah, nothing there. This is all foliage. Nothing. I don't think there's anything in rocks. Let's give props a quick look. I do need to create some... Oh, these gave me an idea for another type of carnivore feeder, which I forgot about. Let's have a look for stone. Yeah, I don't think there's anything in there. Oh, and obviously we've got like I suppose you could say wet stone, like wet gravel, which I suppose is, I mean, if you look at the size of actual gravel compared, it is technically different. So I think those are the three types. So basically we've got like large sort of gravelly bits, small white gravelly bits, and wet gravelly bits. So what do people think for our gastroliths? Going off of like how big one of these guys is, for example. I almost think that the like Zen garden stuff, I think it's just too small. I honestly think that the proper stone stuff is the only one that really makes sense looking at the size of the animal. Because like the white Zen sand, it would just be like a mouthful of sawdust to them. So I think these stones are the only ones that really match the size of the animal, to be honest. So I think we'll go with that. I wish we could change its color. But I'm pretty sure even the planter ones... I mean, gastroliths... The thing about gastroliths is that they kind of range in size. Yeah, we cannot change the color of this stuff, which is a bit upsetting. Okay, I think we'll make the size as big as we can get it. And then we'll make sure it's nicely nestled in. There we go. And I think just in line with the lip there. I think that makes sense. Yeah, I wish we could change the color. It's one of my many criticisms I have of this modular building system, and in fact, it's probably going to be the video I try to put out next week, although next week's video might be delayed because I didn't anticipate how much I had to say about modular building in Jurassic World Evolution 3, so the video script ended up being a lot longer than I anticipated. Right, and all of these need to be made as big as possible. Just going to line it all up. There we go. So duplicate that. Do the same over here. There we go. Look at that, not a bit of Z fighting in evidence. Okay, I do want to change the color of the outside concrete just to make it a bit less bland. And I think since this is specifically for plant eaters, I'm going to give it a nice green coloration. I'm wondering if we need to put anything. This feels a little devoid of detail. So what can we do to give this a bit of extra detail? Is the stream quiet? I mean, the volume is normal volume. I can turn it up a bit, and I'll try and speak a bit louder. But like I say, I'm having a bit of trouble today because my teeth are a bit numb. Oh, yeah, I mean, to be honest, Berenson, I have noticed that ever since the beginning of the year, it has just been pretty dead in terms of stream population. To be fair, I mean, I've even noticed it on Evo's streams as well, that it definitely feels like we're getting a lot less people showing up. But unfortunately, that's kind of what happens. January time is like really terrible for YouTube channels. So hang on, we have straight pieces, but we don't have any flat curved pieces. How stupid is that? Well, that's just silly. Tire, dirt. Yeah, no, that's just silly. And the only way we'll get it to work is to do something like that with them. Hello, King Giga. Yeah, the other thing I would say, Berenson, is I really don't think that Jurassic World Evolution 3 is getting the crowd in, as it were. Like, I was having a look earlier, and the biggest, like, the most watched videos for Jurassic World Evolution 3 are things like walking around pre-built parks that other people have put on the workshop. Like, it doesn't feel like, to me, that the idea people that are just building parks are really getting that much traction, which is definitely a bit of a shame. Okay, I'm thinking we need some vegetation in here, just a little bit to, I don't know, just attract those big old sauropods over here. I'm thinking some nice green ferns. Maybe not that many. I would like something in between one and many. Could we have maybe something bushy? Maybe something bushy would work better. You know what? Screw it. We'll just use my beloved wattle grass that I always use at every opportunity, just simply because it is the perfect grass. And then we'll just we'll stick like some flowers growing through it, you know? Just a couple. Yeah, I'm reasonably happy with that. Did we want to put anything actually like decal-wise on these stones? Maybe a few patches of water? Oh, dirt. Nah, I don't think dirt really makes sense. Maybe some moss? Actually, yeah, I think the moss actually works quite well. Just helps break up that repeating texture a little bit. I think that works. I'm doing okay, Chad. How are you doing? Honestly, I think I'm going to be, you know, petty and say I still think that until we have a Margosaurus and Camarasaurus back at a bare minimum, whatever animal we get for free will not ever be as good as getting those two animals back for free. Like, the longer it takes, the more annoying it'll get for me, personally. But, I just honestly think Amargasaurus and Camarasaurus are just so bloody important to get back. I think that works as a pretty decent, simple gastrolith station. So what I'm going to do is we're going to select all that. We're going to create a group. There we go. So we got our gastrolith station there. So let's move this guy out of the way. Now then, let's have a look at using this guy, because I actually really like the idea of this being like a multi-tier feeding and gastrolith. But actually, though, I can imagine it being just like for food, just like supplying water plants and non-water based plants. Maybe we could make it like double-sided. I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's stick with the original idea of making this like a gastrolith and feeding station. So let's start with the gastroliths. Now, how best to do this? Because obviously, these guys are going to be up here. And then they have to go down for like this level. So maybe we could angle it, maybe? So let's start with that bit in there, and then let's drop 15 degrees. How would that do? That would still actually be a little bit above that, wouldn't it? Let's have a look. Yeah, just a smidge. Not enough. So maybe let's take it back and do 22.5 instead. 22.5 looks a little better. Oh, that was not in line though. Yeah, and then if we just like duplicate that again. That's... I think that's a reasonable height for that. Ah, I have to hide the corner. Okay, if that's where that's going to be, how do we deal with that corner bit? Maybe we just leave the corner. We'll just hide it with ye olde bush or something. The classic evolution way of solving many a problem. Hide it with a bush. I think that works. Hell, I mean, I think that works if you want to, like, use this particular setup as, you know, something that isn't as a feeder. In fact, I might save this just as is, you know, for future use. Ow. Teeth are stinging a bit. I thought I duplicated that. What's happened there? I have heard about the new Spinosaurus species, yes. Well, I say new. It was discovered last year, I believe, wasn't it? Yeah, I'm actually going to just quickly grab all that. Create group. And then I'm just going to make blueprint. And this is... JP Viz Center Planter blank. Right, because I think I might, you know, might use that for more than just providing gastroliths and things. Right, so if this is going to be for sauropods, what sort of vegetation do we think we should be providing them here? I want this to be a place where they get vegetation they might not get elsewhere. Quite like the idea of having some of this elephant grass in here. And let's think. Sauropods had, like, peg-like teeth. They were not very good at eating woody branches, but they were quite good at eating soft leaves. So things like ferns and fruit, that sort of thing. So I'm thinking maybe if we provide them with some of these ferns. Do we have some... It's a quite chunky... Okay, let's provide them with a few of these. There's some nice tree ferns for them. And we'll include a few, like, small ferns, just to, hug. It will not let me in. Okay. Fine, be a little. fuck with then. Honestly, sometimes this game does test my patience. Okay, so foliage, big tree ferny sort of chunky boy. Make sure there's plenty of it. Nice. Now, annoyingly, we don't have anything that's like fruit. I don't think we have anything that's like a fruit plant at all. Flowers are definitely out of it because flowers weren't around at the time. Maybe something... That's not very fruity though either. I can't believe we don't have anything like apple trees or stuff like that. Tropical flowers. I think it makes sense for it to be that bamboo. Bamboo feels like... Maybe olives is probably like the closest thing we have to like a fruiting sort of tree. Maybe we can say it's good for their skin. I don't know. I just find it really weird that we don't have any fruiting trees really, or substantially fruit trees. Cabbage palm I don't think is very suited for... Dates, I mean date palms actually, dates. They probably also provide, would provide fruit, so... We'll provide some date palms as well. There we go. So we've got like a mix of ferny, soft, ferny vegetation and fruit vegetation, which I think makes sense, you know. Hello again, Brian. I just wish we had something, you know, something that was a little bit better than... those. I'm going to just put a few of these guys around. Just because they help cover up that awkward little bit there. And I quite like the idea of just having a little bit of greenery in here. Honestly, the hitbox on those ferns is preposterous. Look at that. Look at that for a hitbox. I mean, really, come on. just a few patches of moss, just, you know, get rid of that. Can we color this? We can. We have some, like, dirt. Slightly curved, so you can't use pretty much any of these decals because, you know, they never supplied us with curved ones. Eh, I actually think I'm going to leave it as that. I don't think it has to be that complicated. I think that works. There's a nice little combined gastrolith and feeder station. Okay, now here's an idea. How would a sauropod rubbing post work? Where's the rubbing post? Do I even have it still deployed here somewhere? No, I do not. Okay. Oh, of course. And simple scratching post. So there's our simple scratching post we made for, you know, something about the size of a Loki Ceratops. Tad lacking in size, that ain't it. So, it'll need to be bigger, obviously. But I'm thinking also we wouldn't use ropes. I'm thinking we're probably going to use something else. So, I mean, I do think something the size of a proper big, thick column. It will be a tree. I mean, that is a good point. It would probably realistically just be a tree. The problem is, you know, you can't rely on something like that because it risks harming the animal. It risks, you know, you don't want the tree to slice the animal open and then you get a wound and then it get infected. Like, you're going to want to provide a safe, reliable form of scratching. So I think an artificial one makes sense. What I don't think makes sense is using wood. I think this one... I mean, what I would love is to create one that cows have, which is like this drum, which is covered in like... it's like thousands of bristles. And it rotates. But it's like it's covered in lots of bristles. The thing is, I don't think we have anything that we could use to create like a bristle. I just don't think there's anything in here that's like bristly. Just having a look through. Because like even this stuff, it's not really bristly. Yeah, same with this sort of thing. What if we claimed this was like pumice stone? And we had like a series of them going up. I don't know, because I actually fancy the idea of using that as like a hanging salt lick instead. Can we change the color of the tires? Or do they always have to be black? No, they always have to be black. How big do they go? They go almost the same size. What is that size in comparison to... You know, I don't dislike using the rubber tire. Okay, we'll use the rubber tires. And then I'm going to use that as a sword lick. Okay, so... It's got to be quite strong, because these guys are going to, like, push against it and... So let's go with... It's got to be strong, but they've still got to be able to get to it. Just looking at this Apato. Yeah, I think that's a decent height for that. And then if we duplicate this, but reduce it in size, maybe a little bit more. And then it's got to be as high as this guy, so... Hello, Frog. How are you doing? So duplicate again. And duplicate again. We'll give a little bit of extra reach just for those properly tall boys. Okay, so that's as high as it's going to have to get. That is going to be so unstable if it's not braced. But how do you brace it without getting in the way of the animal that's wanting to scratch itself on it? Because if the tires are going to go around this central column, wires would just get in the way. Unless you had like a... hang on. Here's an alternate idea. Okay, you go... Here's an idea. Where are the tires? Where are the tires? That's a fountain. tires. This is going to be an awful lot of tires. Oh. Let's hope these are big enough. Smeg. Might have to turn these down a little bit. That's a little bit better. Oh, camera, why did you change again? Oh, you're very sick, so you're just going to listen. That's all right. You know, if you just want to sit there listening, that's all right by me. I'm just glad to provide you something to distract you while you're feeling unwell. Okay. We're going to want... This is going to be the bit that's going to take a while. We're going to want to duplicate this. I said to duplicate this. I've also just had a wonderful other idea for another type of scratching station for these guys. Okay, now what we're going to do is we need some sort of like collar or something on the top. That works. Okay, so that's like a nice little collar just to stop all the tires from like coming off. Maybe a little bit bigger. Maybe sink it down a bit. Yeah, that looks good. Can't change the color of it, that's a shame. Right. The plan now is, if on its own, it's going to be way too structurally unsound, then why don't we make a triangle of them. Now, if you connect these together with bracing wires, they can end up supporting each other. That's the theory, anyway. So this one is, I don't want it, I'm happy with it kind of sticking up like that. Unless we have it like sticking through one of these gaps in the bin. duplicate, spin, and okay, so it was about kind of there. And duplicate this one. Might be a little tricky. Yeah, because it's not quite in line. Let's get it in the right place. Shift it. Should be about there, I think. Okay, so this one will probably have to be moved. And you see, this way they all sort of mutually support each other. Which I think makes a lot of sense from a structural point of view. Okay. Let's get our long pieces of cable. Make it as thick as possible. I still think that's not very thick, but whatever. Oh, this is going to be a pain. Where are we with that? Okay, somewhere about there. Looks like it's in a pretty good position. That's not bad. I'm chuffed with that. Okay, now if we duplicate that and rotate it by 45 degrees, and shift that to here. Interesting. And duplicate that again. Shift that to about there. I see. Gives us a rough center point about there. Now, we are not going to be able to hide that amount of extra cable, so we'll have to do something about that. What this has demonstrated is I cannot build equilateral triangles. table. Big. There, so now they will mutually support each other. That's the plan, anyway. Seems a little large. The rocks just provide a reasonable place to put vegetation and stuff around, just to make it less boring. There are some really big. Where are they? Not those. Is that? No, it's not that. They're like palms, but they've got this really big, beefy base to it. No. It's not the mangroves. I thought they were up here somewhere. Ah, these. This is what I want. These big, beefy, what are they called? King ferns. Yes. Put a couple of these in. Some beefy boys. I mean, compared to the other ferns, these guys, these are like pitiful compared to the king fern. I think that works as like a little, as like a scratching station. I think, yeah, mutually supporting towers with rubber tires on the outside to work as a scratching medium with a bit in the middle, just yeah. I mean, I would love for the tires to be a lot bigger and a lot chunkier, but alas, we are only allowed to expand a thing by 1.4 times. Okay, so here was the other idea, using these really quite bizarre millstones, which I still don't understand why we have them. But these are going to be our salt licks for them. Well, what I want to do is make use of the fact they've got a hole in the middle and have them hanging up. So what I'm thinking is we want to create something to string them onto. Now, there were these... where are they? I thought they were in here. Yes, I was thinking of using these. I mean, they would be big enough for the smaller guys, but obviously not the bigger guys. We'd have to hang it a bit further up for the bigger guys. For like the really small ones, I think this makes sense. I've been wanting to use that for a while for something. Yeah, because I don't like these ones. I think it just needs to be like an A-frame, which is why I wanted to use this. Maybe... maybe not. What other random pieces have we got in here? Ooh. That could work. I'm realizing that keeping sauropods in captivity would be really difficult. Yeah, we can make like a super-sized one for the brackies easily, and then we can make like a tiny one for these guys. This is the bit, right? This is the bit. Okay. So, duplicate, rotate. This is actually something that I would suggest everybody do if they're really struggling with modular building, is to like just grab some of these really bizarre pieces and just use these to begin with as just placeable objects and see what you can do with them. Like, experiment, basically. There was a type of that one. Maybe one of these. The classic lozenge shape makes more sense. Okay. Rotate. Yeah, keeping sauropods in captivity, I think, would be almost impossible. I think the sheer amount of food you would need to provide them, because in a captive environment, there's no way they would get all the food they require from a captive environment. So you'd have to provide them artificial sources of food. And you're talking, I think, like 1.5 tons of vegetation a day. Let me just do a quick check. How much would a Brachiosaurus eat per day? Okay, so it's estimated... for a Brachiosaurus, it's estimated about 400 kilograms of food every single day. So, let's just do like a quick calculation. Let's take a little break from modular building to do some maths, shall we? So, 400 kilograms of food per day. Let's take a reasonable herd, shall we say? So let's say you have 4 fully grown brachiosaurs. I don't think that's out of the realm of possibility. So that's over 1.5 tons of food per day. Times that by 7 to get it for a week. Times that by 4 to get it for a month, and then times that by 12. So in a year, your 4 Brachiosaurus would require 537,600 kilos of food. So that's, if you move the decimal points about, 53,000 tons, I think. I've forgotten how you move the decimal points. Isn't it like you divide it by 1,000? You divide it by 1,000 to get it in tons. Sorry, it's 537 tons of food per year for 4 fully grown brachiosaurs. Now, how much usable vegetation is in a... Let's go with an oak tree. Actually, let's use conifer, because we know conifers are, weight of Google. This is about CO2. Average biomass. This is all about carbon dioxide. I'm just wanting to know how much. Okay, so an oak tree, which is like one of the UK's biggest trees, they have about 250 kilograms of dry leaves. So, and that is in one mature oak tree, which is 200,000 leaves, provides just 250 kilograms of leaf. So, think of it this way: your Brachiosaurus is eating the equivalent of 2 fully grown oak trees a day. So we can then figure that out. So that would be 8 trees for your herd of 4 brachiosaurs per day. So times that by 365, which means for your herd of brachiosaurs are going to require the equivalent leaf mass of nearly 3,000 oak trees a year. And of course, an oak, these trees will then take time to grow. They take sort of 5 to 10 years to mature. And you can't remove every single tree, every single leaf off of a tree, because they still need some to survive. So you're probably actually going to need double that number if you want to be sustainable about it. So you're looking at like 6,000 trees a year for 4 brachiosaurus. That's an absolutely huge amount of food. And of course, then the other problem is the stuff that comes out the other side of it. So it's estimated that a Brachiosaurus evacuation, for want of another term, could be over. It could be around 3,000 pounds, which is 1,360 kilograms. Now let's be optimistic and say your brachiosaurs, your 4 brachiosaurs, only shit once a day, which I think is highly unlikely. But let's be optimistic. They do it once a day. Times that by 365. Goodness gracious me. Okay, divide that by 1,000 to make it a little bit more workable. Holy fucking shit! In a year, if you want to keep those 4 Brachiosaurus happy, you're going to have to find a way to handle 2,000 tons of shit. Not kilos, tons. Metric tons, of course, but, you know, 1,985.6 tons of dinosaur poo. So yeah, I don't think sauropods in captivity would work at all. Anyway, we can't change the color of these. That's a shame. Now here's the real question. Our lovely salt licks here. Do we hang them by a rope, or do we put them on a pipe or something like that? I think it makes more sense for them to be on like a pipe rather than a rope. All the ropes we have in game at the moment, they're kind of a little bit wussy. So let's put them on a pipe. That's a little bit annoying. Okay, switch. And if we do like that. That creates like a box. Probably an easier way of doing it. Yeah, that works. Be long enough to keep the pipe relatively stable. And then we just need some pipe. Pipe. We went on another long, boys. Yeah, that'll fit in the hole. That allows the pipe to, shift slightly, so it's not a rigid structure. Because we don't want it to be too rigid, because then that puts stress on the rest. We want there to be some flex, some give. So it makes sense that it's, you know, you allow it to sort of move around in the holder there. It also means that it's easy to get off when you want to reload the pipe, as it were. And then let's like start with like putting one in each of those rubber divots. And then I think maybe it looks so fucking bizarre, but in a way I kind of think that works in its benefit. It's like, how do we get our massively tall boys to eat their salt? Like, well, let's like string it up from like poles where they could get to it. Although, that being said, could they get to it? It's a little bit high up for him, isn't it? Hang on a minute. Aren't these as small as they can... What? They were already as small as possible. So I think we need to ever so slightly just lower them a bit. That'll be a little easier for them. But I want it to be really easy for them, because obviously our poor old dippies are going to need to reach it too, so let's like properly move it down by a bit more. That is fine, and then let's put in some foliage. Foliage. Let's move just in the same bit better. I actually kind of like the these, because like they do kind of look like sauropod necks, don't they? So I kind of like using them as sort of modern artistic representations of sauropods. It's a shame we can't recolor them, but maybe we can do something to alleviate that a bit. What if... Hello, Dada. Bye-bye, Dada. Sorry, I've only just seen your message, and then you said you were disappearing, so... Sorry. Oh, that's not flat. It's not flat. That's actually going to be almost impossible to do like that. Maybe we could just stick vegetation in there. If it's thick enough. No. Are we going to have to resort to the classic ivy? It's not really enough either, is it? I don't know. I feel like I want to use these cutouts because they're like really obvious. Ooh, hang on. What if we just did like a... I don't dislike that. I think it needs to just be a bit neater. Hang on. I don't mind that. Just takes the edge off the concrete a bit. Maybe we could... Maybe if we strung some... Not like that. Like... If anything, it needs some bamboo or something. Or maybe I'm overthinking it. I think that kind of works. I think these ones we do need to actually have resting on the thing properly. I think it works. It's a bit brutalist because we can't really change the color of the concrete of the supports, but I think it does what it's supposed to, you know. And we've done our best to like hide the concrete. Maybe if we put a little bit more vegetation in. That's better. Okay, just a little bit of vegetation to take the edge off the concrete. Goodbye, One-Shot Frog. Yeah, it's a bit weird, but I kind of like that. Okay, we've got 20 minutes. Here's one. What about some sort of water sprayer to keep these guys cool? Now, obviously for something like that, we're going to want to use these guys. How tall would it have to be? We're saying at least that tall. Let's make it at least... I'm going to say another one. So at least that wide. I don't know. How do these ones look upside down? I'm just trying to find like a fountain that looks good when upside down. I mean, these Vegas ones provide like a lot more of a curtain, I guess. But they've also got a lot more up top that needs to be hidden. They're also a really annoying shape. And I don't like using DLC pieces in certain objects just because people then complain and it's like, I can't use it. That creates a nice fall, but there's nothing really underneath. Like, I feel like these guys have a lot more like water that you can actually see running down as opposed to these guys. Same with this. I think this one looks more natural too. So disappointingly small. Really, it is the Vegas ones that work the best. But we'll keep this block as well, so we'll build like a DLC version and a non-DLC version. Now, the question is, how do we keep these guys up in the air? I'm thinking the obvious way of hiding some of this stuff is Unt Rock. But I think we want... Okay. These rocks are perfect. I thought these rocks were perfect. Let's grab some other rocks. I feel like we need to. Why use many rocks when a couple of rocks will do? Because rocks are cool. Maybe we can keep some of those original ones in just for a little bit of rock-related texture. Okay, now I need to cover up the top. Wondering, what if we actually use... Oh well, we would have to produce... Okay. see how it works? Like the water pools in, rather the water kind of gradually feeds down through the gravel and then down. I mean, I was thinking of using like I think they're in the props. I was pondering whether to use like the pools, but I think they're all a bit. Like, it would look a bit weird to have like many of them. I think all I want to do now is just lower these pieces slightly. I mean, it looks like there's a bit more of a reservoir sort of thing there than it did. Don't necessarily mind how the rocks look. It has some ivy and stuff growing around here, and it, you know, it'll look fine. I think it looks alright. And easily big enough for Bracky, you know. Get 2 Brackies under here. Like, easily works. Something I do want to do is just to kind of accentuate the kind of like mud pit, just to make sure you don't end up flooding the place. I think it makes sense for this place to be pretty muddy. I think it works. And I think if we make the lighting... Oh, we can't change the color of the lighting, so it has to stay that sort of color, but I think it works. We'll put some like moss growing in the inside of these rocks, the moss decals, just to really emphasize the moistness, and we'll put some like hanging ivy and bushes around that. And then basically we'll do something similar with this one, the non-DLC one. Build like a reservoir on top, surrounded in rocks down the side, and alright, I think that actually is going to look pretty damn good. Obviously, I won't be finishing it now, since it now is 11 o'clock, and I need to head off, since it's the end of the stream. I'll be back on Sunday, where we'll be carrying on with the park. I think that's what I said in my little community post, that we'll be carrying on with the park. That being said, I might decide to carry on with Dino Crisis instead. I'll have a think. But yeah, I'll see everyone on Sunday. Thank you for tuning in. Those of you who did, please remember to like the video, subscribe, all the rest of it, and I will see you next time. Until then, I hope you enjoy the rest of your Friday nights. Stay safe, and good night.